The journey of love towards Karbala begins on the outskirts of Najaf. We remember Jabir's path towards his Imam. We imagine the tears that must have soaked his face as he got closer to the blood-stained ground where Abu Abdullah was martyred along with 72 of his family and companions. When we travel for Arba'een, it is hard to imagine that same forlorn and lonely path that Jabir followed. Now, the road to Karbala is filled with millions of Imam Hussein's admirers. Among them are the very young and the very old, all with hearts that beat, Ya Hussein, saying, Labbaik Ya Hussein.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah. Welcome to the program Labbaik Ya Hussein. We are getting very close to the ziyarat of Imam Hussein alayhi salam on the day of Arba'een, the 40th of Imam Hussein. The visitors of Imam Hussein are getting very close to the shrine of Imam Hussein. And we are going over this very valuable text that we have attributed to Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. And we are learning lessons from Ziyarat Arba'een. In this ziyarat there is a sentence that we read, Allahumma inni ashhadu annahu waliyuk. O Lord, my Lord, I bear witness that Imam Hussein is your vicegerent, is your wali. What does this mean when I do shahadat? I testify that he is your wali. It means that I say this with iman, I say this with faith. It doesn't mean that I just repeat this with my tongue. I say this from my heart, right? It means that when I say ashhadu, I bear witness that Imam Hussein is your wali, my entire existence is testifying to the fact that Imam Hussein alayhi salam is God's vicegerent on earth. What does a person need to do to make this stronger when he says this? When he says, Ashhadu annahu waliyuk, to say this from the depths of his heart, from his inner existence. It means that a person should not only increase his knowledge, but it means that a person should also increase his faith, his iman. And that is one of the duties that the believers have, is to continually, every year by year, increase their faith. Because faith can be increased. How does it work? Faith rests on two things. One is knowledge of something that you have, say knowledge of God, knowledge of the hereafter, knowledge of Imamah. The second thing is attraction, and that is a dimension of the soul, of the spirit. The spirit needs to be clear and to be clean, to be able to comprehend and to take in spiritual concepts. So the more that we separate ourselves from sin, the more that we are clean, the more we go towards light and nur, the more we are actually going towards faith, and the more that these holy things will be attracted to us. Take, for example, a person that spends his entire life in sin and is surrounded by sin and materialism. When you talk about religion, when you talk about faith, for them it doesn't seem that interesting. They don't feel attracted to. But Islam is a religion of action. Nothing takes us towards faith more than good action. Because when you perform action good, you get more light, you get more nur, and you get more attracted, and you take another step towards God. Therefore, when we learn in this ziyarat, and you want to say salutations to Imam Hussein, when you want to bear witness that Imam Hussein is God's wali, when you take away yourselves from a life of sin, when you start to follow all the actions and commands that God has, you will be inside your heart, and your soul will be filled with light and nur. And this is the best way for us to increase our faith. This is a spiritual journey that we have. And the more that you actually act upon this, the more results you'll see. Brothers and sisters, we have to understand that when we commit sin, when we break the rules, when we disobey and rebel against God, we are actually hurting ourselves. God has commands for us to stay away from harm. He has commands for us to attain maslahat and good. And that He cares for us so much that He wants to realize and to make us reach good so much that if we don't reach that good or we take ourselves towards harm, He gets upset and He calls this a sin. So the first person that we are benefiting, the first person that we are actually helping out is ourselves when we stay away from sin. God is not hurt or damaged or, nothing harmful happens to Him when we sin. But when we take away ourselves from the commands of God, we're actually hurting ourselves. So this is a very important thing for us to know, that when we disobey God, we're actually hurting ourselves more. And we need to think of our own benefit. We need to somehow be selfish in a good way to separate ourselves from harm. And that is why God has made things for us haram and God has made things for us halal, so that we can stay away from harm. We can have a good life. We can live a very balanced life. We can have a good financial, economic, social life. And that is the most important step that we need to take to have this ziyarat make meaning for us. That when we want to take it and say it from our bottom of our heart, we need to increase our faith. And how do we increase our faith? By having good actions, by staying away from what Allah dislikes. Then our hearts and our souls will be full of light. Then you'll say, Ashhadu annahu waliyuk. You'll say, I bear witness, Allah, that Imam Hussein is truly your vicegerent, with light and nur, with all aspects of your heart and soul. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ahla bayti tayyibin al-tahirin.